Not yet. But we're hoping tomorrow. Okay. So this portion of this video, listen, no Monday, no Tuesday. It's coming. Hopefully tomorrow. We'll see. The sooner the better, honestly, because I'm just tired of waiting and I'm really excited to see what the next format of Yu-Gi-Oh looks like. But it is what it is. So today I want to do a quick little discussion on some cards that are fully banned that I think can potentially come off the list as pretty cool shakeups. Like, we know the idea of where Konami should be messing around with in terms of what cards they should hit. These are some kind of interesting cards that could or obviously should come off the list to hopefully move forward with, but we'll see. So the first couple are obvious, right? Summon Sork, getting an errata in the OCG. It may not come off on this list just because we don't have the printing yet, I believe, to make it official that it has the new text on it. So they may not want to unban it just yet, but it's coming, so I figured it's worth mentioning. Same thing with Perform Age Plush Fire, also has an errata in the OCG. I don't think has been reprinted yet for us. But these are cards that are going to come off clearly. That's why they made the errata in the first place. Next up, a couple interesting ones that I also think are pretty obvious. Like, Glow Bulb should just come off the list. The only thing really that I worry about with Glow Bulb at all is Naturia Beast. Just the fact that this paired with like any level 4 Earth does just get you, a Naturia Beast. So it is relatively, abusable in that regard. But outside of that, I really don't have a huge fear for this card. I think it's pretty basic. It's once per duel. We don't have something like Halki Fibrax to cheat this card straight out of the deck and get it in rotation. I think this card's fine enough. Not a great card to draw in hand. I think that's fine. Heavy Storm, another one. Destroys all spell and trap cards on the field. Obviously, the fear for this was that it's basically Harpy's Feather Duster, but it can also destroy your own stuff, which in some decks is actually a bonus. Think about stuff like Unchained, being able to set your own spells and traps and then just pop them to keep playing. But I don't think that's an overly degenerate interaction anyway. It forces you through triggers early in your turn that are not going to be usable later in your turn. So I don't even think that's the worst call in the world there. So I think this card is fine, especially at 1. And for sure, if Konami ever did bring this off, I would guarantee you this card would go to 1 before it would go to, 2 or 3 for sure. So I think it's totally fine on those 2. Then we get to 3 very divisive ones, I think, in one way or another. The first one is MX Saber Invoker. I believe this card was unbanned in Master Duel, and maybe that's why it was unbanned for Master Duels, just because maybe they don't have all the tools to make this card crazy, but I do still fear this card a pretty healthy amount. This card, if you don't know, it's a little bit older since it's been banned. You can detach a material from this card to special summon a level 4 Earth Warrior or Beast Warrior from your deck in defense position, but destroy it during the end phase, and it takes any 2 level 3 monsters. So it is a very generic rank 3 that gets you into any Earth level 4 Warrior or Beast Warrior. There's not a million targets out there for this card, but there are some. I think one of the interesting pieces for this card is that this card does potentially make the 6 Samurai deck a little more interesting, which does add more value to them, which could give a reason for Konami to unban this card. But there are some scary ones, right? Like there are the Zoodiacs out there, and I know Zoodiacs aren't crazy, but when you're able to just, with a generic rank 3, generically accessible, just pull Zoodiacs out of the deck, especially like Rat Pier, to get more Zoodiacs in rotation, like that's when things do start to get a little bit scary there. And I'm sure there are some other targets too, I don't know off the top of my head. Could make something like Goki a little more playable in modern day, right? Just being able to pull Suprex straight out of the deck and then boom, make a Link 3 now, or make a Link 2. Well, we don't have Ice Hold anymore, so maybe that's not the best example either, but still just messing around with some ideas. The problem with this card is because it is relatively generic, it puts us in a position where it's like, it's hard to imagine every possible scenario where this card could be crazy. And so that's why I'm on the fence about it. But I do think it's an interesting card. I do think it makes some upcoming stuff a little bit interesting. And it's a card we've already seen in one of the 3 more modern formats, OCG, TCG, and Master Duel specifically, come out and not really do too much. So I'm curious if this one is good to go. Next up, Prank Kids Meow-Meow-Mu. This is a deck I've always liked, but when it was playable, it was like the most played deck in the game, so I never really jumped on it. I do think Power Creep has probably caught up enough to this strategy where at least one copy of Meow-Meow might actually be okay. Now, I don't know if Konami's ready to start releasing some links yet. So that's definitely, I totally respect anybody who says, no, leave it on. I hated playing as this deck, yada, yada, yada. We're having problems with decks that are one card combo decks, and this card does not facilitate that. But I do think as a one of, it does kind of help us at least, keep in line that it is, one of those decks where like past turn one without a second Meow-Meow, that actually could cause some problems for sure. So we'll see. I think it'd probably be okay. I think this deck would just be decent. Even if we release this card to 3, I think the deck would only be okay and not even crazy anyway. But it's definitely worth mentioning for sure. I do think this card is kind of one of those cards on the cusp of like could probably come back, and it would just make this deck like a cool rogue deck. Or maybe like a tier 2 deck, not high end, but still, do you want to reintroduce it this early on? Probably not. And the last one for me has been Zoodiac Drident. I've talked about this card like basically every single ban list discussion I've done for the last couple formats. This card was never the card to hit anyway, right? They just didn't want to hit the Samorgling 3 yet. They did later on. And now that card's hit, I look at Drident, I'm like, why is Drident hit? Why is Drident hit? And some people are like, well, I was a generic rank 4, just being able to make a Drident. I was like, people make Dweller off a generic rank 4. People make, you know what I mean? People make Baguska off a generic rank 4. You're telling me I can't make a Drident because it's too strong? You're out of your mind. The extra deck requirements for wanting to play more materials in a Zoodiac engine is a real cost. And I don't think this card's payoff is nearly powerful enough to make me go, oh no, that's unfair in any way. So I think Drident should totally be in the game. I think I would put it at 1. Nothing crazy, right? Because it is, I think it's just a soft once per turn. Yeah, it's a soft once per turn card. So like I totally get not wanting to do more than 1 out the gate. But I think at 1, I think that's totally fine. So that's where I land on it. Plus, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit biased. I'm messing with Rizal anyway when those cards come out. And this makes Zoodiac a little bit more interesting of an engine in that strategy. But, I'm not crying over it. So, yeah, I think it's cool. But those are my cards to me. Those are I think 7 cards to me that are fully banned that I think make the most sense to me or jumped out at me as cards that either you could unban or at least have a discussion about. I think these last 3 more so you could have a discussion about. The other 4 to me are like no-brainers, right? As long as we get the erratas, these 2 are obvious. These 2 just seem obvious to me also. And then these 3, we could have a discussion about it. I wouldn't be upset if somebody said, no way, don't drop those yet. And I'd get it. So there you go. There's our discussion for today. Hopefully the ban list is tomorrow. If not, I will see you tomorrow. If so, I will see you tomorrow. So either way, you're getting a little bit of John. So there you go. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching as always. Let me know your thoughts down below on this discussion here today, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.